If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniac. Hello everyone, hope you're all enjoying the video. Just as a little update, I've got a lot of things coming soon for my channel that's going to be implemented soon. I'm very excited about these and you'll see them soon. I hope everyone's doing fantastic. I love all of you and enjoy these stories. It's the late 80s. I'm in my early 20s and two friends and I went camping in Central Florida. Two of us were working for the Park Service at the time, so we were able to camp for free in other state parks. Both of us had done a lot of camping before. I grew up camping with my family on every single vacation, all over the state. For the other friend with us, this is his first ever camping trip. We were camping in the youth area, which was empty that weekend, and was quieter and more isolating than regular campsites. Later in the afternoon on the second day of our trip, we were all sort of spread out in the area of the campsite, beginning with shouting distance but enjoying the solitude. I was collecting firewood. Every now and then, I kind of feel like someone was watching me. I look around and see and hear nothing, and then shrug it off and go back to what I was doing. Later on, the sun sets, we have a bonfire started. One of the rangers who lived on site about a quarter of a mile away then comes over with a truckload of firewood and a 6-pack of beer. We all sat around talking for a while, well after dark. We could suddenly hear what was probably a bunch of teenagers messing around on one of the trails a few miles away. Since the trails are closed at sunset, the ranger and my co-worker drove off to shoo them away. My other friend and I were sitting around the campfire relaxing, enjoying the solitude. All of a sudden, I had a cold chill over me, all the hair stands up on my body, and out of nowhere, I'm terrified. I try and ignore it, but I kept on feeling this and it's building now. I didn't want to say anything to my friend. I didn't want to scare her. I glance over at her just as she glances at me and she said, "Do you feel that?" I said, "Yeah, maybe we should get back to the car." We both felt as though we're in deadly danger, but from what? I have no idea. We start walking at a casual pace, not wanting to appear scared. Then halfway through the walk to the car, we look at each other again, and simultaneously broke into a dead run. We reached the car, jumped in, locking the doors and turned on the headlights. I sit there with my pistol, feeling like I'm totally inadequate for whatever's there. We both sat looking straight ahead. We're afraid to look around. I had the feeling at one point that if I turned my head and looked out the window, I'd see something that would drive me insane. I don't know how long we sat there. It's probably a few minutes, but feels like forever. Then it just left. Suddenly as it appeared. We could actually feel it going away. A few minutes after that, the other two come back. We kind of laughed it off, but I'm telling you, I've never been so scared before or since. I faced a lot of things in my life, but nothing has completely terrified me like that. I don't know what it was, but I'm convinced I was in some terrible danger. A few friends and I had a long weekend off from school and decided to go camping in North GA Mountains. We packed a big 10-person tent and loaded up my buddy's truck. He and I had some experience being outdoors, camping / hiking and hunting. He's an army vet, so we packed really well, having all sorts of amenities like a propane stove grill, fold-up cots, portable shower. We were going to be in there for the whole weekend, so needed this stuff. We left Wednesday afternoon and parked the truck in a small town and started hiking into the woods to find a spot. It was a fairly normal hike until we get about 4 or 5 miles in. The first time we noticed something strange was when we came into a little clearing in the woods with a big pond / tiny lake in it. We stepped into the open area and everything stops. No birds chirping, no squirrels running around. Even the clouds and wind seemed to stop moving. My buddy and I both thought, well, there must be a predator nearby, taking out our handguns, just in case. Now, I've never seen a bear in Georgia, so we figure it was a mountain lion or maybe coyotes. My friend and I were looking around the edge of the clearing and he grabbed me. He nodded across the water, and when I started to look, I saw what appears to be a woman standing just at the tree line. She was maybe 150 yards away. We assumed she lived somewhere nearby, so we continued walking past the water and clearing. As we headed back to the woods, I looked over my shoulder at where she was standing, but she's gone. The sounds of the forest returned once we hit the trees. We made a campsite about 2 miles past that, as it was getting late and we didn't want to be stuck building a camp in the dark. We got everything unpacked, set up and built a fire, popped a couple of beers and started hanging out. There was a girl I was interested on the trip, so I'd been flirting after a while. We snuck away under the fire on the pretense she wanted help setting up her tent. She starts looking at me funny and I say, "What's wrong?" She said nothing, just be quiet. We look outside to the fire. The others hadn't noticed anything strange and we didn't mention anything, but there's a really weird vibe. In the first morning, we found that the propane stove had been turned on, but was not ignited, and had gone empty overnight. None of us had used it. The second morning we noticed some things had gone missing. A lantern we left outside by the fire was gone. My crush's sweatshirt she left on a little folding chair / stool. We figured we just misplaced things or had used them and put them somewhere else. During the second full day, we started looking for a waterfall that we read about online. We were following the river upstream and everything went silent again. My buddy nudges me while we're walking, indicating something's at the top of the hill next to the river. I looked up through the trees and was just able to make out a figure of a woman. Same clothes as before, just standing there. I couldn't tell if she was looking at us or not, but she was just standing there. My buddy told the girls he thought he saw a mountain lion following us and was going to scare it off. He hustled up the hill making a lot of noise and came back about 10 minutes later. He actually ended up telling the girls that he scared it off, but pulled me aside to say that the woman wasn't there when he got up there. We found the waterfall and put it out of our minds as we all enjoy the time there. We hike back to the camp and find it's a mess. It wasn't totally trashed, but it was clear something had gotten into our stuff. We told the girls it was probably raccoons, but we both took our guns with us to bed. Now that night things went sideways. I can remember waking up because my arm was being squeezed. I open my eyes and I'm being hushed to be quiet before asking what's wrong. There was complete silence all around the tent. I looked across the tent and my buddy was sitting halfway up looking around. We both stayed awake for the next 2 hours until the sun came up, then packed up our stuff and we all headed out. The entire hike back was eerily silent. There's a couple of points I thought I saw the woman through the trees, but never getting a clear sight of her. We then avoid the lake completely. Head back to the truck in what seemed like half the time it took to get out to the camp. After we arrived safely on the road, the girls and my buddy started to tell everyone about the moments they thought they heard/saw the woman all weekend but were too freaked out to mention it. She just didn't seem to go away. Some people shouted at her but she ignored them. The wild part is none of us could describe her face, almost as though it was blurry. I have no idea who she was, but I've never been camping or hiking since. When I was a kid, around 8 or 9, my mum, grandma, brothers and I went camping at a small camping ground about 2 hours away from the town we lived in. We went there a lot, even having a particular campsite we had slowly built up over the years. On this particular trip, we had my aunt's and uncle's dog with us since they were doing military tours. They were both well-trained bird dogs, but usually really calm and friendly. The first night on this particular trip, the Star starts growling in the tent at about 1 in the morning. My mum, thinking something's outside, arms herself to investigate with the dogs. She gets out the tent. Star and Ariel would not let her move to the other edge of the campsite, both in attack positions, while herding my mum towards the car. This is while also keeping themselves in front of the tent. By this point, we're all up with a group of 10 and under kids freaking out. For some reason she can't even explain today, my mum packs up the camp, gets all of us into the car to head home. After about 10 minutes out of the campsite, a car begins following us, and the dogs get back in and just growl. By this point, everyone's in borderline panic mode, and my brothers were crying the entire ride home. As the town came into view, you have to cross a huge bridge to drive in, and the car was still following us. And as a kid, you make stories to yourself that nothing is wrong, and the car behind you is just full of scared people too. Yet, as we cross the bridge, the car stops and turns around, speeding back the way it came from. As we stop at the gas station, and everyone near was about to melt down, my mum goes in to buy cigarettes, but Star would not let her back into the car until she could see clearly. This and a camping trip a few years ago convinced me that it's not worth camping for anything. I went camping by myself way out in the middle of nowhere in north central PA. I drove on dirt Forest Service roads for over an hour, then hiked about 6 miles into barely recognisable terrain. There were no signs anyone had been there recently. The trail was almost completely overgrown, no footprints, spiderweb everywhere, etc. I didn't really have a planned stopping point. I was just looking for a nice place to camp, but the trail followed a creek in a valley and was very rocky and not flat. As soon as the sun starts to set, I came upon a fork in the creek with a nice flat spot just on the other side. As I got closer, I see all sorts of stuff laying about. I crossed the creek, starting to look around. There was a trap on the ground by a stone fire ring, about a foot in diameter, that had been chopped with an axe. A little bit away, I found the entire contents of what you'd imagine to find in a hiker's backpack. Basically food, a cooking set, camping pad, first aid kit, etc. All strewn about on the ground, but no backpack in sight. There was a pile of clothes down by the creek that looked like it had sat through the last rain, which was the day prior. A paper towel hanging from a tree. There was an area that had clearly been used as a toilet for maybe 14 days. The strangest thing though was a cage. It's about 4 feet across, made out of saplings tied together. It was framed where the edges of a cube would be, and then had crossbars diagonally on each face, but it would not have kept anything inside because of how open the space was. Obviously, it wouldn't have been sturdy either, as it's made from saplings. I ended up deciding to set up camp there because it's nearly dark, and I didn't have a choice really, unless I want to hike out in unrecognizable terrain. I have a 12-inch knife on me, bloody hell. And I kept that thing on me in one hand the whole time I was there. Thinking someone crazy was going to jump out on me. All night I barely slept. I kept thinking I was hearing things, and then as soon as the sun came up, I packed up and got out of there. Everything turned out fine, no crazy cannibals or anything, but this really bugs me because I don't know what that stupid wooden cube thing was for. I called the forest services and even sent them pictures. They told me they've sent a ranger in to check it out and clean it up, but I've never followed up to see or figure out what it was. The ranger rang me on the phone and said it's probably someone nearby doing something dodgy out in the woods. I roamed up the sides of the valley before I set up camp but didn't see anything. It seems unlikely because how far away you are. You would definitely need equipment. So maybe it's just some weird guy living out in the woods, but why the cage? The creepiest thing I had was while I was camping with my best friend. We're in a semi-remote camping area. It's usually drivable, but you definitely need a 4x4 to get there. It's in a semi-maintained camping area with a couple of fire pits, a few rotten picnic tables, and a rundown outhouse. The park's checked every year or so. So we arrive and start setting up when my buddy wanders over to the outhouse, opens the door. He stands there for a second or two, then closes the door and goes to the second one. He then comes in a few minutes later. He comes back to me and says to go check out the first one. I assume something's nasty in there or that an animal's died. But no, there's 3 full backpacks. And I'm talking big bags. Like the bag I have when I go out for a week. Now we get really nosy and open them up. 2 are full of good quality camping gear and nothing's unusual. The 3rd is full of Skittles, bulk bags, small bags and regular. Every size and flavour you could imagine. We camped there for 4 days and never saw a soul. The bags were still there when we left. We let the COs know when we got back to civilization. Who would leave all their camping gear there though? And why did one person have at least 100 litres of Skittles? All I could think is that Though it's dark, a very weird person might have been using them to lure people in, like children.